Welcome back to the Double Leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the Parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC 305. Jenkins Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. As you can see in the background, I got my side. The Parlay's got his side. We're going to go to battle. Before we do that, let's recap last week. UFC Vegas 95. Banger of a card. How'd it go for you?
Oh, man, I was happy to get out of there up 0.95 units. Dude, this card was atrocious, man. I mean, some of the fights, we're getting so many decisions right now in this little stretch of events. Playing inside the distance props just isn't the move right now. And then at the same time, it's like if you're betting on money lines, you're kind of expecting these fights to go to a decision, and then it's in the judge's hands, which who knows when they're going to mess something up. So it's tough. But overall, man, I was happy to get out of there with a profit.
Yeah, I don't know. After last week, man, I might just be done betting money lines because I just can't hit money lines. Like the only thing I'd be hitting nowadays is like props and over-unders or fight to go the distance or fight not to go the distance, any of those type of parlays or whatever. I was profitable last week, plus 2.22 units, but I missed all three of my money line plays. And I'm just like, is there any point? Because I just not my strong suit. Maybe I got to adjust, but we were still profitable last week. And then, of course, the DFS plays were also profitable as well. Another week in the books where the DFS plays are profitable. Once again, it wasn't a big week, but it was a profitable week, and I will not complain about that. So, yeah, that card's in the past. We don't have to talk about that one anymore. It was pretty bad, and we can move on to a much better card here, UFC 305. We're going to go through every single fight. We're going to give you a breakdown. We'll give you a pick. Tell you any leans, and we'll give you the pick. But if you want our actual bets, you jump in the Home Fight Picks Premium membership. That link is down in the description. You can join today, become a premium member for a week, a month, or a year. It's up to you. And we may be running a promotion later in the week. Just stay tuned for that. But that's where you can get the bets. But without any further ado, let's start it off. First fight of the night, Stuart Nicoll coming in at minus 225 against Jesus Aguilar, sitting at plus 172. Interesting fight here. We got a debuter who is the favorite. Undefeated kid out of Australia. I should not say kid. He is older than me. Undefeated fighter here in Stuart Nicoll, 29 years of age, older than Jesus Aguilar. Now, Jesus, world famous for that knockout he had on Shannon Ross. Absolute banger of a right hand. We were there live in attendance. We had Jesus Aguilar money line, but we did not expect the KO because that was his first ever knockout in his professional career. He gets it done there. Then he goes and fights Mateus Mendonca. And it was a bad fight. Arguably, he should have lost that fight. I think he probably should have lost. But he won. Maybe because it was in Mexico. So he's on a nice little streak here. 2-fight win streak. Do you think he can get it done against the debuting Stuart Nicoll?
Oh, before I give my opinion, out of all the UFC events I've been to, that we've been to together in the last few years, I think Jesus Aguilar was the second most pumped I've been to hit a bet live because – dude, it's UFC 290. Everybody's pumped up, and it's one of the first fights on the card, if not the first fight on the card. I can't remember exactly. But I'm like, all right, I got Jesus Aguilar money line, minus 125, 130, and all we need is this boring, wrestling-heavy game plan. Get him to the ground. Let's win this decision. Comes out, flat lines, dude. First knockout ever in his pro career, I believe. And it was one of my bigger bets on the card, so I was super pumped. So I don't think that's happening here. I think this is going to be Nicoll trying to get a little bit of revenge for his fellow Australian here. But stylistically, I think this is actually a pretty tough fight for Aguilar because if Aguilar, in the past struggles with the striking a little bit, he's got short arms. He struggles with the reach. He results to the wrestling. A lot of times he is having success with getting fights to the ground and kind of making it, a fight that's very grueling and trying to get his opponents tired, which is like a game plan I think Nicoll can keep up with. This guy's a really good wrestler. He's a good submission artist as well. Holds some power in the hands too. His striking's pretty crisp, but this guy likes to fight at a high pace. He can kind of fight you anywhere this fight goes, and I think that's going to be a problem for Aguilar. I think Aguilar is a good wrestler. He's got some subs on his record. I just don't really think at this level he's going to get a whole lot of them in the UFC. The KO over Shannon Ross, I think, is kind of fluky because Ross has no chin. That was an ugly right hand, too. It was like a windmill, and he just caught him perfectly. I think his path to victory a lot of times is going to be wait till your opponent gasses out, land the takedowns, get control time, and win like that. And I really don't see him being able to do that against Nicoll. Stuart Nicoll, UFC debut. That's my one concern. Fighting in front of his home crowd. Maybe he has some kind of adrenaline dump. Gets tired, but overall, I think he's going to be the more skilled fighter here. I think he's got what it takes. He looks pretty solid if you just watch his tape. So I'm going to go with him to get the win over Jesus Aguilar. Minus 225 is a little nuts for me, though. He's not going to be in a parlay of mine. Definitely not betting on him. Sit back and watch this one to kick off the card. But Stuart Nicoll's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I usually don't touch UFC debuters at chalk like this, especially if we haven't even seen him on like a contender series level. And I probably won't in this one, but I do think Stuart Nicoll probably wins. He's a strong wrestler, but I do think that could get him in some tough spots here because Jesus Aguilar, dude, loves that guillotine choke. And based on what I've been seeing with Stuart Nicoll, does be leaving his head out to the side sometimes. So Jesus probably going to be jumping Gilly. I think the sub is live for Aguilar. And if he gets it done, it's probably that way because I don't think he's going to win a lot of minutes because his takedown defense is not very good. It's like 40%. And Stuart Nicoll's probably going to win most of the minutes using his wrestling, being on top, landing some ground and pound. But Aguilar could probably, hit some reversals or get back up to his feet, threaten with some submissions, maybe get it. But he's just not going to be a minute winner in this one, in my opinion. And I think Stuart Nicoll, probably the rightful favorite, probably a bit pricey, though. He will be the pick for me, but that Aguilar sub, man, I would definitely be eyeing that one up and keep my eye on that because it'll probably be pretty juicy. We keep it moving. We got Canan taking on Ricky Glenn. Ricky Glenn coming in as the underdog. He's moving up a weight class to 170. He's on back-to-back knockout losses. Not looking good for old boy Ricky Glenn. Canan, believe it or not, he's the favorite. This guy hasn't had the best run in the UFC, but he has faced some pretty good competition. Probably the rightful favorite, considering the trajectory of Ricky Glenn's career. But it is always tough to trust, Canan at minus 210 plus. Coming off a loss to Kevin Jousset where he did absolutely nothing. That was a very frustrating performance to watch because he just stood there and ate jabs. He did nothing. Never really let it go. He just accepted the loss of getting his face jabbed off. I don't think Ricky Glenn has that in his arsenal to just jab his face off. And I don't even know what Ricky Glenn has left in his arsenal. Could be a kickboxing match from the outside, and maybe Ricky Glenn wins that way. Could maybe mix in some wrestling. We'll see. But the durability is definitely a downside for Ricky Glenn at this point, and Canan hits pretty hard. So I'm leaning Canan. What do you think?
Yeah, I lean the same way. And for Ricky Glenn, it's like, especially his last two fights, you could tell that Christos Yago's knockout that he took really took a lot out of him. I mean, that's a heavy hitter at 155, and then you get fed to Drew Dober in the next fight and you get mauled again. Like, it's like, I don't know what else he's got left in the tank at this stage in his career. How old's Ricky Glenn now? He's got to be, 35. I mean, so he's not like the oldest guy in the division, but he's not a spring chicken either. He's had a lot of fights. At the UFC level, he doesn't have that many. He's got wins, but not really over anybody notable, anybody worthy of, rating this guy pretty highly. So when you go in here against the Canan, who, has fought some higher level competition lately, he shows he has power in his hands. He dropped Ian Gary. He dropped Rolando Bedoya, not the best striker, but the guy is tough and he can eat a lot of punches. And Canan was able to put him down, something Chaos Williams couldn't do. I think Canan, when he's going to fight these technical guys like Jousset, he's going to get his leg kicked off. He's going to get jabbed up. And like you said, Ricky Glenn just doesn't really have that in his arsenal. I think if Ricky Glenn can't find a big knockout punch early, I think he's going to be in grave danger of getting knocked out himself, moving up to 170 with these bigger guys that hit harder. Canan, not the best fighter in the world, but the guy does hold some power. He's been fighting very good fighters lately. And now he's getting a kind of a step down in Ricky Glenn. I think this is going to be a fight where somebody's going to sleep. I don't think this is going to last over a round and a half. And for the pick, I'm going to take Canan to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Canan. He's my pick. I would do like violence in this fight, though. I think, even Canan's been knocked out in the UFC by Max Griffin, knocked out in the third by Ian Machado Gary. And Ricky Glenn does have a knockout over Joaquim Silva. So, he does have a little bit of pop. Is dangerous a little bit. I mean, at this point, it's really tough to look at him and think that he's dangerous, but he's dangerous. It's MMA, 4-ounce gloves. You never know. But either way, Canan is the pick.
Both guys have negative striking differentials, which just tells you that each guy is going to eat some shots. So somebody's going to fall. Just depends who it's going to be.
Moving on, we got Tom Nolan coming in at minus 1,400 against Alex Reyes, sitting at plus 680. Alex Reyes trying to do the unthinkable here. Knock out Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan been knocked down in his 2 UFC fights. Both fights in the UFC, he's been knocked down. Last fight against Vter Martinez, massive favorite. He gets knocked down. And I think we're getting flashbacks to his debut when he got knocked out by Nicholas Mota. He battles back, gets a knockout in round 1 with a nice little knee. But obviously the concerns are still there, man. Like, Tom Nolan, he's only 24. How is he this chinny? You know, like, not even against like elite strikers. You know, like these are bottom of the barrel guys. And he's getting knocked down and knocked out by someone. They give him Alex Reyes. I will say this, man. The level of competition they're giving Tom Nolan, like the bottom of the barrel. They're giving him everybody they can think of that he could beat. Alex Reyes is probably that guy. But there is that part of you that thinks that Alex Reyes could maybe chin Tom Nolan. Because even though Alex Reyes got knocked out in his first fight back from, 5 or 6 years off, he still took a good amount of shots. So chin for chin, I might have to go Alex Reyes. But like, you know, eventually Tom Nolan, he's the better striker, definitely the more lethal puncher. He's the rightful favorite, but minus 1,400 is crazy. Talk to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, Alex Reyes is a weird guy. Not a guy, but a weird, guy on the roster just because he had his debut in 2017 against Mike Perry. And then we didn't see him again for 6 years. And then he gets Charlie Campbell, who, is going to be a decent fighter in the UFC. And, he gets knocked out in the first round, got knocked out by Perry as well. Like, those are 2 guys that when you think about power punchers, like both those guys kind of have it. So it's hard to tell, if Alex Reyes is that bad or if he's just running into these guys that hit like a truck. I mean, I don't think Tom Nolan necessarily hits like a truck. I think he's just very long and rangy, and he's good with his timing and stuff. And he just kind of sometimes he'll just go out there and brawl with you. But yeah, I worry about his chin too, because Nicholas Mota, a guy who had been struggling a little bit, comes in there as a massive underdog and was able to get the finish in the first round. Vter Martinez is a guy who got knocked out by Jordan Levitt. I mean, a guy, you're getting knocked out by Jordan Levitt, and I don't know if that warrants. I think that warrants you being cut, because Levitt is not a striker or a knockout artist whatsoever. Never even had a knockout before. So that's the kind of guys the UFC's feeding you. I think the UFC desperately wants this kid to win, because on the Contender Series, when he beat Bogdan Grad by knockout, everybody was talking about, myself included, like, this kid is the next coming, the next wave of strikers. Like, this kid is going to be so damn good. And then he comes in and just gets fraud checked right away. So, yeah, I'm not ready to, even think about this kid being minus 1,400 over anybody in the organization. Alex Reyes does have a little bit of power in the hands, which should be concerning. Alex Reyes is also athletic. He moves a little bit better than these, Vter Martinez's of the world. So I think Tom Nolan does have to be very careful in the first round. I don't think he can come in here and just, think I'm so much better than you. I'm going to close the distance, no regard for the strikes coming back at me, and try to put it on you. Because if he does that, he's going to be in danger of getting knocked out. So Tom Nolan's going to be the pick. I am not going to be paying $1,400 to win 100 on him in this spot. I think this is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, Alex Reyes definitely got a boosted record, that's for sure. But he's got 9 first-round knockouts, 2 first-round subs. Is there any way, like, Alex Reyes could be shooting takedowns here? That's kind of my question.
He could. I think I think that's a path, right? Everybody tries to stand and trade with Tom Nolan, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild, bro. Like, obviously, the UFC is trying to get rid of Alex Reyes. They're trying to just feed him to Tom Nolan, take his loss, and cut him because they got Contender Series up. But sometimes the UFC plan doesn't go to exactly how they want it to. But either way, I mean, Tom Nolan's the pick. He should win here, but the line is just crazy. Moving on, we got another wide line here. Jack Jenkins making his return, coming in at minus 770 against Herbert. Burns sitting at plus 480. Herbert Burns probably on that list of guys the UFC wants to cut. Sorry to say, but 3 losses in a row. Not exactly his best performances. They're trying to clear up the roster. They gave him Jack Jenkins, a guy that they like. He's a fan-friendly type of style. And just took a bad loss his last time out. Got injured against Chepe, broke his arm pretty much a year ago, I guess 11 months ago. And he's coming back. It looks like they're feeding him Herbert Burns. The writing's on the wall. But we do know Herbert Burns is dangerous in the first round. Is there any chance you're taking that?
Oh man, this is a tough one because Jack Jenkins has been a hard guy to get a read on. I mean, he's on the Contender Series and gets the 3rd round finish. Comes into the UFC and he gets bottom of the barrel. Don Shainis gets the decision win. He dominated the fight. He landed a handful of takedowns, outlanded him by a mile. But that's what I mean. If you're fighting Don Shainis, like I think I had a Jack Jenkins KO bet in that fight, and it was just frustrating to all hell. Like couldn't, he wasn't even really going for it. And then he gets Jamal Emmers in a fight that a lot of people thought he lost. A very close fight. Jamal Emmers, that win isn't aging the best right now, considering he just got his ass beat by Nate Landwehr. And then against Chepe is where I was fully expecting Chepe to kind of have some success in this fight, make it dirty, a style that Jack Jenkins isn't really going to like all too well. And Jack kind of held his own, like while the fight lasted. I mean, he outlanded him on significant strikes. He did get taken down once, but we just saw Chepe look like an absolute dog against Damon Jackson. So that's not really outside the injury. Like if he would have taken a loss by decision there or whatever the case, wouldn't have been a terrible loss. So I don't know, man. There's some fights that I look at Jack Jenkins and I think kind of overrated. This guy's minus 770 probably doesn't warrant that price tag. But you look at Herbert Burns, he just doesn't really have that fire in him to go out here and win fights in the UFC, I don't think. I mean, we kind of see him give up a little bit after taking some damage. Bill Algeo finished him, Daniel Pineda, and then Julio Arce in the 2nd round in his last fight. I mean, you watch him, though, he comes out swinging. He comes out looking for takedowns and trying to get it to where he's going to want the fight, which is on the ground. If he gets it there, he's a happy guy. If he has trouble and takes a few big shots, you can tell he's looking for the door. So I think Jack Jenkins, wins this fight a lot of the time, 95% of the time. It's just if something happens where he makes a mistake and gets taken down or ends up on his back, I think Herbert could do a little bit of damage or try to look for some kind of submission in this spot. But if he doesn't, I think Jack Jenkins is going to kick the legs off of him.
Yeah, I think so too. I like Jack. Jack's a good fighter. I just think he's a little bit undersized. I mean, 5'7", he doesn't have the longest reach. And I think Herbert's live in round 1 just because he's a lot bigger than Jack. And Jack has shown in his professional career he can get subbed. He can get subbed early. He can get taken down. So Herbert's definitely live in round 1. But as we've seen his last 3 fights, after round 1, he falls off a cliff. And, Bel Algeo, not a potent finisher. Julio Arce, not a potent finisher, but they are still able to get him out of there in the 2nd round. Jack Jenkins hasn't shown to be a potent finisher in the UFC, but he should be able to get Herbert out of there in the 2nd round if he makes it that far. So in all reality, it's Jack Jenkins, round 2, 3 for sure. And he's definitely the pick. So that's about all that I need to say about that one. Moving on, we got Casey ONeal and Luana Santos. Luana Santos coming in as the favorite. Casey ONeal, the dog. Luana Santos is the younger fighter. She's definitely got the more momentum. She's 3-0 in the UFC. Casey ONeal coming off back-to-back losses. Luana Santos is stepping in on short notice. Casey ONeal was supposed to fight Teresa Bleda, a wrestler. Now she gets a grappler, judo, striker in Luana Santos, and Santos is the favorite. What do you think?
I think this is your classic buy low, sell high. I mean, Luana Santos, like you said, a lot of momentum, three wins in the UFC. I don't really like the opponent she's getting wins over, though. I mean, Juliana Miller is not UFC level at all. I mean, I don't know how she won the Ultimate Fighter, but she is not at this level. And we saw that against Santos. And then she beat Stephanie Egger. I mean, Egger's a decent grappler, has some good judo, but outside of that, I mean, she's not the best fighter in the world, and Luana Santos is good enough in that department to where she was able to compete, but Santos was getting tired at the end of that fight, man. She was not looking good. If that's a 5-rounder, I think she loses. And then Maria Agapova, all the rumors she's, got some personal issues, was homeless. I think she was fighting for a paycheck, probably not the most well prepared, and she gets submitted in the first round. Casey ONeal, we were there for the Lipsky fight. I had Lipsky by sub and Lipsky money line. And, I just from the fact that I thought she was going to have success if the fight hit the mat, I thought Casey ONeal wasn't willing to engage in that brawl style enough where Lipsky was, that she was going to struggle. Casey ONeal, though, is a girl who throws a ton of volume on the feet. I mean, she averages 8.41 significant strikes per minute. She's landed 229 significant strikes over Mata Fari. Who else did she? Oh, even against Jennifer Maia in her loss, she landed 137. I think if this fight stays standing, Casey ONeal is going to be a bit more technical, a tad more fast. And if she puts up those kind of numbers, I think this is a spot where Luana Santos starts to fade again like she was against Egger. I don't think Santos is like a phenomenal striker by any means. Like, she has some decent kicks and stuff, but it's just all looking good against lower level women, where Casey ONeal is fighting some seasoned veterans. She's beaten her handful of girls at the UFC level. And, this one's going to be a lot closer than I think people think. And I'm willing to take the dog shot on Casey ONeal.
Yeah, I'm tempted to as well. Obviously,
and a fast turnaround for you go on. This is a fast turnaround. I think it just right at a month for Luana Santos.
Yeah, that is true. Obviously, she didn't take any damage in that fight at all. It was a quick finish. But it is sometimes you make these quick turnarounds or you take a fight on short notice. It's like, nothing to lose type of thing. And she's coming in as the favorite. So there are concerns for Luana Santos. And on the Casey ONeal side, it's really hard for me to have confidence in her just based off of when she came back from the injury. She's looked terrible. Like, she's looked absolutely awful. I didn't expect Ariane Lipsky to look as good as she did against Casey ONeal, and she just beat the brakes off her, like beat the piss out of her on the feet, and then took her down and subbed her. I don't think Luana Santos is near the level of striking that Ariane Lipsky is, but I do think she could have some success with getting her to the ground, using her jiu-jitsu. I think Santos' jiu-jitsu might be a little bit better. Casey ONeal, I think she's been overrated her entire career. Even her wins in the UFC, I don't think are very good. Roxanne Modafferi was like 50 years old.
Yeah.
And she lost a round to her. Antonina Shevchenko, don't be fooled by the last name.
Hey, that's a Shevchenko, bro.
She's not good. Like, she's not good. I think she's pushing 40 now. At the time, she was like 36, 37. Laura Procopio, nobody knows who that is. And Shannon Dobson, we've always known as absolute garbage. So I don't think her wins in the UFC are that great. Obviously, she was undefeated at one point. Now she's back-to-back losses to some good competition. I'm hoping that she takes those losses and improves from them, because those are two fighters, Jennifer Maia and Ariane Lipsky, that are way better than anything Luana Santos has ever seen. And Luana Santos, at one point in time, was getting pieced up by Jenna Bishop, who we just saw get knocked out by Decheva in the PFL. And Jenna Bishop's a great grappler, but she's not the greatest striker. She's okay, but she lost there. I think in this one, it's probably a dogger pass, man. I don't think I could take Luana Santos as a favorite here, just considering the level of experience for Casey ONeal and the level of motivation she could come in here. I think relatively their skill sets are fairly similar, so I just tend to lean towards the dog. I guess I'll take her for a pick, but probably not one that I would have too much conviction on either way. It's a toss-up. Women's MMA fight probably goes the distance. O'Neal's probably going to have the more volume. Luana Santos might land the better shots. I don't think Casey ONeal wears the damage very well, and Luana Santos could get it to the ground a couple times, throw it to the ground with a judo throw a couple times. We'll see. But Casey ONeal, I guess, is the pick. Moving on, we got Josh Culibao and Ricardo Hamos sitting at plus 126. Culibao comes back at minus 162. I believe this line is shortening. Culibao is moving down in a favor, and Ricardo Hamos getting a little bit of respect. Interesting fight here. Actually, one that I'm having a tough time figuring out, because Culibao's on back-to-back losses. I faded him against Danny Silva and Danny Silva's debut. Nice little dog cash there, but he got outstruck. Or Culibao outstruck Danny Silva. I mean, Culibao has great volume on the feet. Usually in a stand-up battle, he's going to have really good boxing, decent kicks, does struggle getting taken down here and there. And Ricardo Hamos, as of late, back-to-back losses, both by guillotine, looks like he's quitting on himself, getting stuffed in guillotines and panic tapping. But I will say, those two guys that guillotined him have pretty good guillotines. I don't think Josh Culibao has a guillotine like that. So I'm tempted to take Hamos here just because of the grappling upside. And on the feet, I don't think it's going to be one-way traffic, one way or the other. And Ricardo Hamos, it almost seems like a buy low spot, but at the same time, the way that he's fighting these fights, I can't really have a lot of confidence in his fight IQ for sure. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's a tough one. I'll look at what Hamos has struggled with in his career as of late, and it's definitely the getting a little overzealous, going in for takedowns, and getting his neck snatched up. Like Julian Erosa, he had Julian Erosa hurt pretty badly, hit him with some big shots. The Jourdain loss was almost to be expected. Like that's Jourdain's move. Like if you shoot in on a takedown with him, Jourdain's going to snatch your neck or he's going to look for it, and he's got a very good guillotine. But outside of that, like his losses in the UFC aren't bad. Tukugov is a guy who wins a lot of fights, not very exciting. But then he lost to Lerone Murphy, who's undefeated still and surging towards the top. Saeed Nurmagomedov is a tough out for everybody in the division. That's his only other loss in the UFC. He's beaten everybody else. He's beaten Eamon Zahabi, and then some lower level guys here and there. He's beaten the Bill Algeo. So, I mean, this guy has some decent wins, and he pulls wins out of his hat kind of when you least expect him to. Now, the one thing that Josh Culibao is probably not going to be doing here is shooting for takedowns and trying to grapple with him. So I think that kind of, if he can just stay safe on the feet and not get rocked, I think Ramos is going to have the ability to look for takedowns himself without looking to get his neck snatched or his back taken or anything like that. I mean, I think he's going to be a little stronger than Culibao in this spot. I like Josh Culibao's striking to where he throws a lot of volume and he's pretty accurate and he's got a little swag to him, but he's just lacking that power and that strength. Like he's not knocking people out. He's got a chin on him, but he just doesn't really have that finishing ability to where Hamos does. Like on the feet, he throws some nasty strikes, spinning elbows he's knocked people out with. And, if he does get you on the ground and you're not to his level, he's a very good jiu-jitsu player and, is going to give himself opportunities to win fights with using that alone. So, yeah, at this big of a, not even a big dog shot, but as the underdog here, I think it's worth a look for sure. He's due 2 losses in a row by submission. I don't think Culibao's got that in his arsenal to do it to him here. He's going to have a little more free range to kind of look for those takedowns. And if he gets it, man, I think this is going to get very interesting. He just can't gas out because Culibao does have good cardio, and he's a guy who throws a lot of volume even later in fights. So if Hamos wins the first round, but it took a lot of energy trying to get these takedowns, comes out in round 2, and he can't get the takedown, I think he just starts kind of getting pieced up a little bit and loses minutes. But, I'll take the dog shot on him. I think he's due for a bounce back. Plus money. I love plus money all day long on guys like that who are dangerous on the feet and on the ground.
I don't know how Josh Culibao has those love handles, man.
I know.
How is that even possible?
He's so thin, and then
he's like skinny fat. Like I don't understand it. But I mean, he's a good boxer. I actually do like his hands. He's a skinny fat 145er, and Ricardo Hamos is a bantamweight that doesn't want to cut weight and sometimes misses weight at 145. So pick your poison. I'll take the dog here in Ricardo Hamos. Grappling upside, I like it. And his losses in the UFC, they're not terrible. So I'll take him. Moving on. We got some low-level heavyweights. Just what the doctor ordered. Vter Walker making his return against Junior Tafa. Is he the better Tafa brother or the worse Tafa brother? That's the real question. But he's going to have to defend takedowns here. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe we get a Carl Williams performance from Vter Walker. Maybe someone's in Vter Walker's ear saying, you can't be shooting takedowns. Otherwise, you're going to get cut. I don't know. But disgusting matchup here. Walter Walker, big dude. A lot bigger than Junior Toffa. Yeah. 3 inches taller, 9-inch reach advantage. But obviously the strength here for Walker is going to try to get the takedowns, and Junior Toffa needs to keep the fight on the feet. That's striker versus grappler, 100%. Who you got?
Yeah, I think Walter Walker's kind of taking that Spivak approach where he's dropping a bunch of weight. Like Spivak came in and weighed in like 30 pounds lighter than he normally does. And then not 30, probably like 20, 25. But he looked very thin. I was very concerned about it because I'm like, you fight Marcin Tybura, who has some decent grappling and wrestling. I think you want a little extra weight to throw around. And then he goes out there and gets a nasty first round armbar from his back, which was insane. Now, Walter Walker dropping weight here, I kind of like it as well. I mean, he didn't look very good in his debut. He kind of looked out of shape, overweight, and he gassed out against a guy that he should have been able to take down and control easily. I think it's going to be a little easier to land takedowns on Tafa just because Tafa's got combat sport experience, but he's not like a lifelong mixed martial artist where he's been drilling wrestling for years and years. I mean, him and his brother, powerful strikers. Junior Tafa, more athletic, got the kickboxing in his back pocket. I mean, when he touches you, he's definitely got a lot of power and he's slick with his hands. But when Mo Usman's taking you down and controlling you for 2 whole rounds, I got to think that the 6'6" guy who looks in phenomenal shape and Walter Walker is going to use that to get in on some takedowns here too. And I think he will have some success. I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. I do worry though greatly that if the takedowns do fail here and it gets stuck on the feet, I think he's way too slow for Tafa. I mean, Tafa is a fast heavyweight with the hands. He's very calculated. He's accurate. So I think that could be a big problem. But through the first 2 rounds, I think Walker, being in better shape, should have enough in the tank to get the fight where he wants to. It's just going to be that round 3. He's got to be careful. So I'll take Walter Walker for the pick for a little bounce back. I'm not confident in this fight whatsoever and will not have a bet on this fight. You can hold me to that. This one's one of those that you got to sit back and watch because this could go either way. And your betting tickets might go up in flames.
Yeah, it's a disgusting fight. Like, if Walter Walker pulls a Carl Williams and doesn't shoot takedowns, he's screwed because he has terrible stand-up, like absolutely awful. Like, this guy was fighting cans on the regional scene, absolute cans, and he was going to decision with him, split decisions with him. And that was the main reason why I faded him in his UFC debut against Dresky. Dresky's awful, and he still lost to Dresky. And not only that, he got 4 out of his 5 takedowns against Dresky and still lost. That means he did absolutely nothing on the feet. Nothing. And if he does that here, he's in for a long night or a short night. Maybe a long night if he's got, the Walter Walker chin, a short night if he's got the Johnny Walker chin. Because Junior Toffa is going to be putting hands on him and he's going to be kicking him. And Walter Walker ain't going to be liking it. He could probably get takedowns on Junior and he could probably hold him there. I don't like either side. I'm actually questioning why Walter Walker is only minus 106, considering how bad he looked in his UFC debut to lose to that kind of guy, Dresky. So I'm a little confused. I won't have a side. I will not have a side. You heard me at the top of the show. Cutting down on the money line bets. But I do kind of like the over 1.5, just considering, the chance that Walter Walker gets him down for, the first round and lays on him and all that kind of stuff. But I guess for a pick, I'm going to take Junior Toffa because I just absolutely trashed on Walter Walker. So we'll move on. We got Li Jingliang taking on Carlos Prates. Prates coming in as the favorite. Li Jingliang coming in at plus 235. The Leech, he's back. Hopefully he'll be wearing his suit on Thursday if he's at the press conference. If he's not allowed at the press conference, that would be pretty sad. Honestly, I don't think they're going to let him. They'll probably just have the main and the co-main or something like that. Yeah. Maybe actually no, they might have
Ty.
They'll probably have the full main card. We'll see. Yeah. But if he's got that suit on, man, look out because he didn't get to wear it last time. He's going to be pissed off. He's going to come in here after that long layoff looking for a dub. But it's against Carlos Prates, man. Fighting nerds. This dude's an absolute monster on a big long win streak. Dangerous striker. Looks like he can't be beat on the feet. It's a tall task for Leach. Do you think he can get it done?
I got mixed feelings about the fight because for Carlos Prates, I think this is a guy who's kind of a, somewhat of a star in the making. People like him. People talk about him when he's fighting, after he's fighting. He's very good on the feet. He hits hard. He's super good at range. He's just an all-around fun guy who the UFC can kind of build off of. So I think giving them a bigger name in Li Jingliang, they're giving him that opponent at the right time. Li's kind of on a long layoff, has lost his last fight to Daniel Rodriguez. He's not really I guess he's not really in his prime anymore. He's kind of exited. He's on the kind of back half of his career. Hasn't fought in a while, like I said. And I think, if you're Prates and you want him to get a win and you want him over a big name, this is the perfect opportunity. But if Li's been working on his game and he comes out here and, he can kind of stick to him with the wrestling like glue, put him against the cage, it's going to make it tough, especially in the early going for Prates. Prates kind of struggled with Trevin Giles to get his range and really figure him out until later in the second round. I think Li Jingliang's better than that. Carlos Prates' last fight was against Charles Radke, who's a decent fighter, but moving from that level to Li Jingliang is a big jump up in competition. I'll be interested to see how he handles it. There's some you look at Prates' record, he's got a couple wins by submission, so you can tell he's not a fish out of the water. If he gets on his back, he's Brazilian. This guy's going to know what he's doing down there. He at least know how to work back up to his feet. But man, I watched Li versus Muslim Salikov, and even though he got that late finish, he was kind of slowing down in the middle of the fight a little earlier than normal. Like he's not exactly in the shape he used to be when he was going out there and having these wars with guys and putting on great performances. I definitely think this is a Li Jingliang who's maybe lost a step. Now he's coming off of a long layoff. It just boils down to being the perfect time for Prates, man. I think they're going to try to build off of him. I like him to win this fight. Minus 320 is a number I'm not real interested in, though, just because of the big jump up in competition. But I'm going to take Prates to get the dub here.
Yeah, I am too. I'm definitely not going to fade Prates with a guy coming off a long layoff. I'm going to take Prates for a pick. I think he could probably keep his distance, use those step-in knees like he did against Charles Radke. He was disgusting. He's got a nice jab on him, real nice kicks from the outside, head kick, body kick, all that type of stuff. Mixes his weapons very well. And, maybe if the Leech can get some wrestling going, he can get himself in it. But ultimately, I think Leech is probably just going to come out a little bit slow after the long layoff. And if you come out slow against Prates, you allow him to build into the fight, then it's like a massive uphill battle because this guy just gets his reads, finds the spots that he needs to, and eventually by rounds 2 and 3, he's hitting you with like everything. So I'm going to go with Prates for a pick. It is a wide line. He's just the rightful favorite in my opinion, but it is a little pricey. But either way, he's the pick. Moving on, we got Ty. Bam Bam Tuivasa back in action, trying to stuff the 5-5 losing streak. He's lost 4 in a row. And he's a big dog here. Plus 186 against Jairzinho, Biggie Boy, Rozenstruik, sitting at minus 245. Interesting fight here. Ty back in the home country where he hasn't had a lot of success as of late. Biggie Boy, big favorite. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I don't think Jairzinho gets enough respect just because of his record. Like this guy, in his last, let's say 8-9 fights, he's lost 4 or 5 of them. I mean, the guy has a lot of losses on his record, but I mean, you look at who he's losing to. His worst loss is Jailton Almeida, and it's just because Almeida has that good wrestling or decent wrestling, and Jairzinho is just not that at all. This guy needs to fight on the feet to win. Outside of that, he's losing to Alexander Volkov, who's on a little bit of a run right now, and just beat Pavlovich and beat him convincingly. Curtis Blades, he lost to before that, who just fought for the interim title a few weeks ago. Cyril Gane has fought in John Jones for the title and just beat Sergey Pavlovich last year. And then Francis Ngannou, who everybody knows is one of the scariest fighters in the heavyweights history. So Jairzinho in striking matchups usually fares pretty well unless the guys are just levels above him, like the guys I just mentioned. I don't think Tai Tuivasa is that, especially with Tai coming off of 4 losses in a row, 4 finish losses in a row. I can't see a world where Ty is kind of looking to stick around for 4 more fights in the UFC or anything. This could be a send-off for him, if I'm being honest. It looks like he's got a lot going on outside the octagon. He's built some businesses that he's a part of, kind of preparing for that next step in his professional career outside of fighting. He's coming back here to Perth, in front of the Australian crowd. I mean, this is kind of a perfect send-off if you ask me. I'm not sure his heart's in it anymore. He's taken some bad losses, man. I mean, Marcin Tybura was able to take him down, submit him in the very first round, and we saw Tybura just come and get wiped by Spivak. So, yeah, it's a tough one, dude, because Ty's not going to go take Jairzinho down. Now you're stuck on the feet with him. Yeah, Ty can land some big shots here and there, and like that's his path to victory. But if those shots don't come, or you can't knock out Jairzinho's got good cardio for a heavyweight. He's got good kicks, and his striking is very accurate, solid, and powerful. So he's going to land more volume. He's going to land more shots. And if he doesn't get knocked out, I think Jairzinho should kind of run away with this thing until he gets a finish, or just it becomes him just kind of putting on a clinic while Tuivasa's gasping for air till the end. So I'm taking Jairzinho here, man. I wish I could have the balls to take a Ty knockout here. I just don't see it.
That's a tough one because you don't know what version of Ty you're going to get. 4-fight losing streak, obviously no momentum there whatsoever. And I don't know that I don't know that he really cares. Like, I don't know if he cares, or like he's going to come to this one super motivated, like just did everything in camp and like losing's not an option type of thing. I just think he's going to go out there and do what he normally does, like go out there and try to throw bombs. And I think that could maybe win him the fight because honestly, I don't think Rozenstruik likes to be pressured. I think if guys get in his face, he kind of shells up or just pulls back. I don't think he's a guy that gets into these firefights. And I think that's where Tuivasa could probably catch him with something. Rozenstruik likes a clean kickboxing match where he can land the one shot. It's not really Ty. Ty's going to like make it wild. He's going to make it ugly. And if he does that, I think he's live. I still kind of question Ty's durability at this point, though, too, because like he's taken so much damage over the years, and he's had a great chin for a majority of his career, but then he had that nasty performance against Cyril Gane where he just took so many shots, and then he took so many shots against Pavlovich before he got knocked out, took so many shots against Volkov before he got submitted, then got taken down by Tybura, and then got submitted. At least we know Rozenstruik's probably not going to take him down. At least we can rule that out. So there's some upside for Ty. At the end of the day, I would not bet on Rozenstruik at minus 245. Not in any realm, because he's a low volume guy who likes a clean kickboxing match, and that's not what Ty's going to bring. Could he win? Could he knock him out? Sure. But I don't really think Rozenstruik's worth a bet in this spot. And if anything, I would take Ty by knockout or just Ty money line, because it is pretty wide, plus 186 for a guy that's live for a knockout. We're going to make it ugly. And is the younger fighter, which is pretty crazy.
That's nuts.
But yeah, I guess I'll take Ty for a pick, but it's not a confident one. It's kind of just a dogger pass to me. And you just hope Ty comes in his best form. So moving on, we got Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker coming in at plus 250, Gamrot minus 340. We were talking about it earlier. What if the UFC tells Gamrot can't be wrestling anymore? If that's the case, then Dan Hooker might be, should be minus 300, minus 400. But in all reality, Gamrot's going to be shooting for those legs. That's what he loves to do. Coming off a career best 11 takedowns against RDA. We were there for that one, right? In Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
And we were snoozing, man. There was one Gamrot fan in the crowd. And he was screaming. He was screaming the entire fight, and everyone's literally like falling asleep, looking at their phones, not even paying attention to the fight while Gamrot's sniffing crotch. And then there's that one guy that was just like all about it. He's a big favorite here, probably for good reason. He should probably be able to get takedowns on Dan Hooker, but Dan Hooker does hold a career takedown defense that's 80%. Pretty good takedown defense, and he's an absolute dog. Definitely a live dog in every fight that he will ever be in. an absolute stud when it comes to just biting down on the mouthpiece and letting things go. But it looks like an uphill battle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very tough fight for him, but there's something different about Dan Hooker, man. I mean, look at these tattoos. He's covered in them now on his chest, back piece. Like, this guy has either gone through a terrible relationship and gotten broken up with or something, because this dude is going full on savage mode. I don't know if you saw the clip a few weeks ago. If he was at a rugby match and got into it with some fan, and he like crow hopped and threw a full beer at some dude's head from like 10 rows down and hit him. Like, this dude's out starting shit in the crowds at places. I mean, Dan Hooker seems fired up and ready for some violence. And, Gamrot makes it tough. Obviously, everybody knows that he's just going to come forward, shoot takedowns, and he's very good at doing that. And he can do that for a full 3 rounds. But I was looking at Gamrot's record. This dude got knocked down by Guram Kudatalaz, knocked down by Arman Sarukian, next fight knocked down by Beneil Dariush, next fight knocked down by Jalen Turner, and then 2 fights later, when we were there, knocked down in the first round by Rafael dos Anjos. Dan is a guy that makes you pay for shooting takedowns with knees up the middle. If you get on a single leg, this dude's going to land elbows to the side of your head. This guy's going to catch you with kicks coming in. And if you start to get a little tired, Dan's very good at kind of powering through and really doing damage to the body when you're vulnerable there. Now, I think Gamrot, you kind of throw that last part out the window. The guy does have phenomenal cardio, but if he stuffs a few takedowns and Gamrot gets caught on the feet with him, this is kind of a spot where I got to wonder, if Dan's going to win a round or two here just based off damage alone, because Gamrot just doesn't really produce any kind of damage whatsoever. They're in Australia too. Like, Dan Hooker's very loved over there. Maybe he gets the little crowd persuasion there for the judges and somehow makes this fight close, because at the end of the day, Gamrot is in a lot of very tight, close fights going to split decision. What was the Jalen Turner fight was very tight. Fiziev, you kind of throw that one out the window with the injury. Loses to Beneil Dariush after getting 4 takedowns, and Beneil's not really like a big power puncher, striker type of guy, and he was able to win that fight, off of landing better shots. So, interesting one for me at this price. I'm almost tempted just to throw a unit on Dan Hooker to see what happens, because it seems like he's kind of a different guy over these last couple of years, and he's in here coming out to try to take people's heads off. So for the pick, I'm going to take Dan Hooker to pull off the upset. I like him a lot here. Like I said, Gamrot's in tight fights. You're in Australia. Dan Hooker, come on.
Yeah, it's a wide line, but it kind of makes sense. Like, whoever I bet on, which I probably won't bet on anybody, but whoever I bet on is going to lose, because I have no luck with Gamrot fights. Not my favorite fighter, and people are going to be booing from the first takedown that he shoots. But in all reality, I think he probably has success with the takedowns. I think his stand-up is improving, and it's just a relentless pace. It's really tough to deal with. So I'm going to pick Gamrot. Probably won't bet on him. And if anything, I'll probably bet on Hooker, but we'll see. But Gamrot is the pick. Brings us to the co-main event. KaraFrance sit at plus 164 against Steve Erceg, sit at minus 215. And I believe this line is growing or tightening a little bit. And we got Steve Erceg at minus 160 now, and KaraFrance sitting at plus 130. So within 12 hours since these slides were made, the line's starting to come down on Steve Erceg. So KaraFrance is getting some love. He hasn't fought in a while since his last fight against Albazi, where he lost the decision, 5-round decision by split, in a fight where most people would agree he should have won that fight. But back-to-back losses for Kara, and Erceg coming off the title fight loss could be a letdown spot, but I do believe Erceg is pretty disciplined guy. I don't think he's going to come out of this one like flat by any means, fighting in his home country. What do you think?
I like that the line's coming down a little bit, because I'm tempted on just hammering Erceg here, because Kai did have a really tight fight with Albazi, which I thought he won. I thought he kind of got robbed a little bit there. He landed a ton of shots in that fight, almost 100 significant strikes compared to Albazi's 43. Landed even more takedowns than him. Loses to Brandon Moreno. I mean, this guy's fighting nothing but the top of the flyweight division. Even before that, like Askarov before he retired, was a very good fighter. Cody Garbrandt, former champion. I just don't really like the fact that he's coming in here against a guy in Erceg who seems to be getting better every fight. Regardless of, he lost to Pantoja, but Pantoja is the tip top of the division. He looked damn good in that fight, man. And a lot of people thought Erceg won. So I think Erceg is there as far as the elite competition in the flyweight division. And I don't really like that Kai's had these injuries and he's had somewhat of a layoff, over a year now. Kai's not the oldest fighter in the world. Like, he's just now in his prime. I just don't know how he does getting back into the octagon after those injuries. Now you're fighting the guy who's probably the second best guy in the world right now outside of Pantoja. He kind of proved that when he fought Alexandre a few months ago. If Kai keeps this on the feet, which I think he should have a good shot of doing, it could be very close. But Erceg's long. He's very technical, and he hits pretty hard. And, if Erceg does get this thing into a clinch, can find some trips, some takedowns, he's very good with the scrambles. He's very slick at taking your back and, making you pay and winning minutes that way. I just don't really see a world where KaraFrance has a ton of success, implementing his game plan. I think he's going to have to fight a little defensively here. He's got to worry about the power in the hands of Erceg. He's got to worry about getting taken down. And Erceg is a machine, man. The guy just comes forward for 3 rounds, and he's going to have his moments in this fight. So all boils down to how's Kai going to look coming back. Is Erceg still getting better even with that loss to Pantoja? I think that's one he could learn a lot from. He made a few crucial mistakes, which might have cost him the fight. I think he tightens things up even more and looks even better. So, yeah, I think this is Steve Erceg, man. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be around the top for a long time.
Yeah, it's an interesting one that I'm pretty interested in just to see how it plays out. Because Kai over the years has really just locked down his takedown defense, locked down his submission defense, and just been able to stand and strike with these guys. Like Askar Askarov went 2 for 14 on takedowns, only 5 minutes of control time. Amir Albazi got outstruck, got doubled up into the significant strike totals, and only landed 1 out of 9 takedowns for 6 minutes of control time. Like, Kai is a guy that can pretty much just keep it on the feet at this point. Now, I think Steve Erceg is a great grappler, and he could maybe mix it in here, but I think it would be tough considering how good KaraFrance's takedown defense and just anti-grappling has looked. And on the feet, I think Kai is a great striker, and I think Steve is a great boxer. So I'm interested to see who gets the better of the exchanges. Ultimately, I guess Steve has probably a little bit more momentum, even though he's coming off a loss. Just getting his skills validated in the point where he fought the best in the world, arguably could have won, but at least put on a very good performance. I think he comes into this one fighting in his home country, puts on a good performance, and gets his hand raised. 3-round fight, though, I think it's probably going to come down to a 29-28 either way. And I guess I would give a slight edge to Steve Erceg in this spot, but I think it could be a close fight. I think it could be super subjective too, because I don't think either guy really separates himself that much. I don't see either guy getting a finish. I think it goes to the decision, and it's up to the judges at that point. But I will take Steve Erceg for a pick.
It's a good one, man. I can't wait.
Me too. Brings us to the main event.
Oh, shit.
Dricus du Plessis coming in as a plus 104 underdog. Israel Adesanya sit at minus 132. Adesanya coming off the loss, but still gets a title fight against Dricus, coming off the win to Sean Strickland. The fight was supposed to happen for over a year now. Ever since Dricus beat Robert Whittaker, he was in line for a title fight. Couldn't make it due to injury. Strickland steps in. Strickland beats Adesanya. Strickland becomes champ. Dricus beats Strickland. And finally, it happens. Very interesting matchup here. I will let you go first.
All right. Oh, man. Israel Adesanya coming off of a year layoff. I think it's exactly what he needed, if I'm being honest. Like, the guy had such a run as a champion and was fighting constantly, like, since 2019. So, like, 4 years basically. Let's see. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights in 4 years. Like, the guy's extremely active. Was fighting all the top guys, obviously, because he was holding the belt. The only loss he really had before Pereira was against Jan Blachowicz at 205, where he was just too small. Everybody else, he's beaten by unanimous decision, a couple knockouts in there as well. The guy doesn't really make it close when fights are on the feet. Like he's that skilled in his movement, and he's just a master point fighter with a little bit of power in his hands. And when guys kind of overextend, and he can counter you. As of late, he took the Alex Pereira loss by TKO in the 5th round after he was winning the whole entire fight up until then. And then, turns around and gets his revenge and was able to flatline Alex Pereira, in his next fight. The Sean Strickland fight's, which is super interesting, and that's what everybody's talking about in this matchup, and everybody's doing their MMA math because DDP just beat Sean in a razor close fight. Sean dominated Izzy, won 49-46 or 50-45. I just don't know if Izzy was really locked in. I think he was exhausted from the 2 back-to-back Alex Pereira fights, which were massive buildups and in the making for years since their kickboxing days. Like, that takes a lot out of you. And then he's against Sean, who a lot of people thought he was just going to walk through, and he was a massive favorite. I think he was looking past him. I think he was uninterested. And he kind of talked about it after the fight, like he just needs time away. He's got that now. If you look on IG, Izzy looks jacked. He looks like he's been putting in the work. And I think for the last year, he's kind of known, like, it's going to be Strickland or it's going to be DDP. Like, he's kind of locked in on those 2 styles to train for. He's had a lot of time to prepare for this. And it's just something that he's wanted. Like, we were at 290 when DDP beat Robert Whittaker, which you called, which not a lot of people in the world were calling that. Like, that was peak Robert Whittaker is the second best middleweight of all time type of talk. And DDP went in there and mauled him. They got in the cage together after, had some words. Izzy dropped the N-bomb like 500 times. I think he was drunk. It was a good little build-up where you knew that fight was going to happen. So, DDP, I respect him as a fighter because he doesn't always look good doing it, but he always comes out on the other side victorious. Never lost in the UFC. Robert Whittaker, like I just talked about, phenomenal performance. Before that, though, beating Derek Brunson in a fight that was kind of sloppy. Both guys looked like they were about to die. Darren Till, kind of the same way. Like, he had to resort to his wrestling. Both guys were pretty tired, and then he finds a submission in the 3rd round. And then outside of that, he's beaten some just okay competition. Against Izzy, when styles make fights, this is going to be DDP looking for takedowns to win this fight versus Israel Adesanya staying at range and trying to pick him apart like he's done to a lot of opponents in the past. I don't think it's going to be as easy to get takedowns on Izzy that it was like against Sean, because Sean's so stationary. Like, he's harder to hit on the feet because of the Philly shell, and he's dipping his shoulder and stuff like that. Izzy's hard to get to because of his movement and his stance and his quickness with his head movement too. So I think it's going to be tougher for Dricus to close the distance to get in range to land bombs. I think it's going to be tougher for him to shoot takedowns without the fear of, catching a knee up the middle. And, if this thing just turns into like kind of a brawling style, I think Izzy's got the movement to keep him at bay, land some big kicks, keep him at distance, and kind of point fight his way until he finds a big shot, until Dricus gets tired chasing him and takes over the fight or whatever it may be. But I don't know if Izzy's going to lose this. Is he undefeated and getting his belt back? Or is he just done it once? I forget what people are. I always see those posts and stuff. But I just think Izzy, a motivated Izzy with nothing really to lose, doesn't have the belt right now. He's trying to get it back. He's finally working towards something again. He's not working on defending something where he kind of got boring for a while. Like, he's looking to get his shit back, and I think it's a good spot for him to do it. He's going to be prepared. Not losing in Australia 2 times in a row. Give me Israel Adesanya. I know you're going to have a lot to say about that.
You know how fucking stupid you have to be?
I knew one of those was coming.
Oh, well, here's my thing.
And the world's on DDP, don't forget.
Well, the world is not on DDP, actually.
Where's the money laying?
The money is 70% on Israel Adesanya. So, the world is not on DDP. And if anything, you look at the Tapology, 51% picked Adesanya. So it's
I don't put weight into shit that doesn't have money behind it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either. But just who do people think is gonna win? I guess it's pretty even, slightly to Adesanya's side. I personally think Izzy's gonna come into this one very motivated. I understand that. I don't put any stock into his last fight against Sean Strickland at all, really. I don't think that was his best night. I don't think he was prepared for Strickland at all. He had like the DUI like a week or two before that. So I don't really think you could put too much stock into that one, other than the fact that he fought off the back foot pretty much the entire fight and got tired. That you can look at and be like, yeah, he gets tired moving back. But more so, I look at his entire middleweight title reign, and I don't see a matchup that is anywhere near the level of Dricus or what Dricus can bring in there. And this is the problem that people see with Dricus is they look at him, they watch him fight, and they just think he's trash. Like he's winning. He's not only winning, he's finishing people. 21 wins, 19 finishes. That's a dangerous dude. 10 submissions, 9 knockouts. That's a dangerous dude on the feet, dangerous dude on the ground. He can get takedowns. He has, I gotta look at his stats. He's got a 51% takedown accuracy. So 1 out of 2 times he's going to land the takedown. So you look at Israel Adesanya's matchups throughout his career. Alex Pereira, not a wrestler. No wrestling threat whatsoever, but still managed to take him down. Jared Cannonier didn't really attempt anything in that fight. Didn't push any type of pace. Literally just stood there and allowed Izzy to do whatever he wanted. Izzy wins a boring decision. Robert Whittaker, the second fight. Some people think he lost. Got taken down 4 times. Definitely lost 2 rounds. Could have lost 3. Not as greatest performance. A slight win. Marvin Vettori, trash. Marvin Vettori does nothing well. He's just a guy that has a brick for a head. He has okay wrestling and has no finishing upside whatsoever. So what does Adesanya have to be worried about? Nothing. Maybe some takedowns. Gets outstruck by Jan Blachowicz and taken down by Jan Blachowicz. So pretty much just got worked by a guy that is strong, can take him down, and could strike with him. Paulo Costa ain't done shit ever. Yoel Romero fight, he did nothing. Neither guy did anything. And the first Whittaker fight, my thing with Whittaker is Whittaker and Adesanya is just a terrible matchup for Whittaker. Because Adesanya is a kickboxer. What is Whittaker? A kickboxer. Adesanya is just a better kickboxer. A longer, bigger guy that is more durable. Whittaker at times is chinny. And then before that, Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum's a fat welterweight. A fat welterweight that took him down and just got beat up. Won two out of the 3 rounds, but did get like 10-8'd in the last round. So honestly, I just don't think any of those guys match up to what Dricus can bring to the table. And guys, time again, are going to doubt Dricus because he looks bad, but he has the complete package. He's a dangerous dude on the feet, bricks for hands. He hasn't been knocked out in the UFC. He's never been knocked out at middleweight. He's a big middleweight, strong dude with getting takedowns at over a 50% accuracy. Has a submission package that has got him 10 submissions throughout his professional career. That's nothing that Izzy has ever seen before. And considering that he's just become the champion back in January, you know what they say? Once you become champion, you get, 25% better? Something like that. So I think he's got his skills validated, that he's the best in the world. He comes in here against Israel Adesanya just as motivated because Israel has talked all that shit, all the shit about him being or not acting right about being an African champion. Like, all that is just bullshit. So he comes in here motivated just like Izzy is, and I think he can get it done. I think he can get takedowns. I think he can hurt Izzy. If you watch any of Izzy's fights, he always struggles with the jab. He gets his head snapped back with a jab. He leans back and opens his hips up right away. He can get takedowns on Izzy. He can get him down to the ground. Izzy has never faced a grappler like that. Dricus has good top pressure. He can take your back. He can flatten you out, just like he did to Darren Till. Rear naked choke. He can get it done by any means necessary. Dricus du Plessis gets his hand raised. And still, count on it.
There we have. I mean, opposite sides once again. you and I have done these bets against each other. You know, whoever wins or whoever loses has to buy a meal whenever we go to the fights next. And I think I'm 0-2. So if you're trying to figure out who to side with here,
Yeah,
I
what were one I know was Charles versus Beneil, but what was the other?
yeah, the other one would have been at 290, right? Oh no, it would have been before 290. It was
No, that was the Charles versus Beneil one.
so it would have been before. No, after that would have been after that, right?
After 290. Was it O'Malley and Aljo?
I don't think so. No, I was on O'Malley.
What else? Big fight? It's a pay-per-view fight?
Yeah, it would have had to have been. Yeah.
It wouldn't have been Makhachev Volkanovski, would it?
No, wait. I think no. Oh, I'll have to think about it. It was something good though. It was.
Yeah, I just remember I won both. So
yeah, I know.
maybe you're due. Maybe you're due.
Maybe, yeah.
But, shit, I mean, I know the possibility for Izzy to get a KO is real here. Like it's super real because you know Dricus is wild and he can get caught, and Izzy does have some good timing. I mean, he could spam hooks. That's really all you need to do. That's what he did against Whitaker. They landed, but Whitaker doesn't have the greatest chin at times. So, yeah, no, I mean, it should be a good one that I've been waiting for a while. So I just can't wait to watch it and see how it plays out. But I got to ride with Dricus.
Was it Izzy Pereira too?
No, that would have been before 290.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What happened like late last year?
Maybe it was it Poirier Gaethje?
No,
Wait, it's before 290, right?
No, after
Or right after 290. I don't know. I remember I was on Poirier against Gaethje. I don't know what you were on.
I was too. I was on Poirier.
Huh.
I feel like it might have been Dricus and Sean.
Yeah, I think you might be right, actually.
Might have been Dricus and Sean.
Well, that one's bullshit because Sean won. So.
yeah.
Oh shit! So you're trying to go back to back with Dricus on me?
Back to back, man. Well, should we make a bet?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's the bet?
Let's see. What's a good Vegas spot? Huh. I got enough units deployed on Izzy that, and I think you do too on DDP.
Yeah, I got a lot. No, give me a lot of money back because I got enough money on Jenkins already. But
yeah, we'll do. I'm sure we'll be going to a December card at T-Mobile. We'll think of something good for when we're out there. So I think I still owe the second one. I know I paid up on the first one at 290, but
yeah,
I might be buying lunch and dinner.
Steve payment for the second one. we can't even remember what it was exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's close it out. Appreciate you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Once again, if you want our bets for UFC 305 for the PFL this week and Dana White Contender Series every Tuesday, jump in the Homo Fight Picks Premium membership. Links down in the description. Join for a week, a month, a year. It's up to you. That's where you're going to get all the bets. Follow us on Homo Picks on the Instagram at HeyJPicks on the Instagram and all the medias for me. Where can they find you?
All social media is at the Parlay MMA.
Till next time, the double egg.